Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Black heart, black mind, black in. Again, hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Listen up. Here's the deal. Right now, the way things are going, I probably won't be able to make this short, but I'll do what I can to not make it too long. I'm going to tell y'all a brief situation where I live, and then I'll be done with it, inshallah. Where I live, I've already told you all that the students are lowlives, and that many of the grown-ups are also lowlives because they used to be these students a long time ago, lazy, cheating. The students will do anything to not study. The effort that it takes to actually study and learn a subject is less than the effort they expend to cheat and beat the system. They coordinate lies on professors with each other so that they can all have the same consistent story when they want to replace a professor with somebody that's going to be, easier. In other words, tolerate the laziness and the cheating. I kid you not. That being said, there are going to be students here that now there are students that are vastly superior because things have improved. And the long distance learning has changed things because you see now they can't just sit in a classroom and talk to each other before the professor gets in, coordinate the lies, and pressure the good students into going along with it. For them to come to the same agreements that they used to, they've got to go through WhatsApp or Telegram, or they got to go through the app that we use to teach them. One of those two. Now, in my case, if you type in Arabic, I kick you out the class right off the bat. You speak in Arabic in a full sentence, gone right off the bat. You're only allowed to use singular Arabic words by themselves in an English sentence to ask for the English translation. So you can say, "Doctor, what is Jawal in English?" And I would say, "Oh, that's phone." That you can do that, but you start saying Shlona Guljual Binglaziya, click, you going out and you're absent. Because I'm that nigga. I got no respect for the culture they tell us to respect, which is a culture of academic dishonesty and inferiority and anti-intellectualism and anti-education. I respect the rules of modesty, the larger culture, to a certain extent. A limited extent. But that Bedouin and that anti-intellectualism, which, us American niggas have a problem with too, I don't respect. Because see, in the US, the Negro student in middle school that's too cool for school at least has the decency to go ahead and take his F. Forget the L, he takes an F, but he takes it. He'll just repeat the grade next year, he don't care. At the very least, there's that kind of decency. The Arab, desert, tragic, mulatto, Bedouin does not have that decency. He will not study, he will cheat, and then he cannot tolerate failure, which he deserves. So he will resort to bribery. White male, you heard me right. I didn't say black male, and you know why. He will resort to bribery, white male, and on rare occasions, even guns and bullets to get the grade that they did not deserve and did not earn. Because they still want to become a doctor and collect the salary, or an engineer and to collect the salary. They insist. They don't take their L's here very well. I say this because you're dealing with a similar scenario over there in the United States. The gynocracy would spend a lot of effort. Now, the effort that it takes to maintain a feminine figure and to simply have a nice attitude, at least to the men that you choose, and to choose men based on reasonable standards that compare to the standards that she's going to meet, is too much of an effort. That effort it takes to do those things is too much, but they're willing to extend more effort and expend more effort to form a union to force the whole of the male gender, especially the black male gender, to accept inferior quality and have to pay superior prices. I kid you not. Now that union is actually a Western woman union. It's not just sisters. However, sisters tend to take these things and put them on steroids. Because when we black people believe in something, we believe in it 200%. That's why we argue a lot. But we believe whatever we believe 200%. Thank God that there are no black American Hindus, because that's a white supremacist religion in and of itself. But hey, there are those of us who believe in white supremacy and believe in it 200%. Well, this is one of those things. The African American, the African Canadian, the Black British, the Anglophone Caribbean female believes in offering men inferior quality and demanding superior quality in exchange. So they all agree to this. I wouldn't say all, but the majority of them do agree. And just like my bad students used to pressure my good students to go along with the lies, do it for us. Be a real Bedouin for once in your life. Be a real Arab. That's how they would frame it. Because they don't call themselves Bedouins. You see, the urban city dwelling Arabs don't have this mindset, but where I live, where I've always lived, it's like that. So what they mean is be a real Bedou for once in your life, but in actuality, they would say be a real Arab for once in your life. Don't betray us and sell us out to the foreigners. They would pull that off. Does that sound familiar? And that's exactly what the gynocrats smell like. Be a real bee. Be a real black woman. Make these men work hard for you and your children by other men that you didn't have any standards for to get you pregnant. Yeah, girl. Demand more. The more used up you are, the more you should be demanding. You can put up these walls and everything else and defenses. And if he's a good man, make him work even harder for it. Oh, he's a no good nigga, but he can slang a ding-a-ling. Well, girl, just go ahead and give it up to him. That's fine. If you have a baby, just go ahead and go to those nice guys over there that you should have been screwing in the first place, if you're going to screw anybody at all. Now, why would a Muslim say something like this? Well, again, see, I don't believe in fornication and adultery, but the fact is that the women's standards are not like that. And since they believe in fornicating, the question is going to become, who are they going to try to please? They're chosen wrong. I said it. So, Minister Japp, you continue calling low-life women German Shepherds. I know that you're not talking about every black woman, but you continue calling the low-life ones the German Shepherds, the Kamala Harrises that lie, the other sisters that support her. You continue calling them German Shepherds. And Rottweilers and Doberman Pinschers too. Because you're still better than I am when it comes to that. I do want the popes to enjoy a happy marriage. Believe me, I do. However, I still want this to be understood too. Mrs. Pope said that she had to learn to appreciate a man like her husband, and that is a very good and mature thing that she admitted it and that she went through it, self-actualization and self-realization. But Mrs. Pope, you got no business, just like my good students, you have no business defending the pieces of crap that don't go through this, the ones that cause you to quit being a matchmaker. You gave being a matchmaker up for a reason. You stated what these reasons were. You were right the first time. Nobody owes it to them to defend them. Ms. Pope, the biggest problem in the country in which I live is not the economy, or it was not the economy. It was competence. Cheating was so rampant that today you have a lot of high school and middle school teachers that don't know their subjects, so education is weak. Competence was the issue. So now the infrastructure has to be maintained from the outside because the locals are just now beginning to get up to par to do it. One of the things was that, see, everybody was not dumb. It wasn't possible. Everybody was not lazy. That's not possible. The population, it was still big enough, even though the country's small, it was still big enough to where every citizen couldn't be the same, obviously, right? But you know what? The bad students always won out and prevailed over the influence of the good students. Just like in nigger schools in America. White nigger schools or black nigger schools or Hispanic nigger schools. Low-performing schools have that problem in the United States. The low-performing students always have influence that wins out and prevails over the positive influence of the good students every effing time. It is the same thing with a gynocracy, Miss Pope. The bad ones have influence and they prevail over the good ones. And you gave in to that pressure. 3 years ago, you were right. Recently, you were wrong. Not because you want people to heal, but you were wrong because what you were saying is, let's heal without the accountability. Sometimes you have to resort to calling names. You just got to be very sure that the name has been earned. So when I call my cheating students, not my honest ones, but when I call my lazy cheating students, tragic, rat bastard, desert mulatto hypocrites, they deserve it. Because they cheat. They're religiously conservative until it's time to take a test honestly. Then they cheat. Not only do they cheat, they lie afterwards. And they will lie on professors to get professors in trouble for doing their jobs. They tried it with me just twice this semester. They done it with other teachers too. The thing that has saved us this time is that with long distance learning, the internet being used to teach them now, instead of teaching them in person, the bad ones don't prevail over the good ones. They can't prevail over the good ones. So once a teacher, a professor, says to the class, listen, some of you little bastards went to my boss and lied about what I've been doing and what I've been saying. Now I want all of you to go in and tell the truth. The good students are the ones that go to the same supervisor and they bring their phones and they say, these are the screenshots of the conversation in WhatsApp where the students agreed to lie on the professor. The professor did not do these things, and that's what's been getting us out of trouble lately. Things have changed, but it took COVID-19 and long-distance learning to cause this. Now it's coming out exactly how bad the educational system is here, how corrupt it's been because of the students, and how the teachers used to be the same way, and that's why they've been turning a blind eye to this stuff. So the good actual teachers that are not lazy are getting in trouble because the culture is one of laziness and, just go into class and get your check and, don't make anybody do any work. So the bad ones, and now this is all being exposed. But it's the same thing that's going on right now with social media. Ms. Pope, Mr. Pope, I want you all to be aware of something. Social media has exposed not just that it's bad, it has exposed exactly how bad it is and how much each good, well-meaning man should be offended by the games that the bad women are playing, the German Shapherds. Mr. Pope, you may be lucky that you found Miss Pope, but she did admit that she had to learn and go through a growth to be able to appreciate someone like you. You're lucky that you found a woman that was willing to do that much introspection. However, the fact that she was still somehow socialized to only appreciate something that was far more shallow is still a problem. It's systemic. We may need healing, but some of this healing is going to have to come from accountability. And frankly, the men have already been held accountable. We men have been held accountable enough. We don't get away with things we don't even do, let alone anything we did do. A black man in our circle of friends sleeps with a woman and then leaves her. We all hear about it. Everybody except the guy that actually did it hears about it. A woman lays down with a guy. He doesn't call her the next day. The next man that actually wants to take her out doesn't know that anything about her and the last guy. He's got to go and scale walls. He's not allowed to have any walls around him, no matter what the hell women have done to him. But he's supposed to scale the walls that any woman has up around herself. Do you understand? That's what we men are facing. This is beyond just simply getting a date. This is about couple and family formation. So leave Minister Japp alone when he calls a certain group of black women German Shepherds. He's absolutely right. I got far worse words for them in my head. I just don't say them out loud. I don't say them on YouTube because I want my videos to be accessible to people that are 16. But I want the message to go even to the guys that are 11. So I refrain from swearing, but he's right to call them German Shepherds, because he's not talking about every black woman anyway. And this is known and understood. We don't have to say not all, not all, not all. When one of us talks and the others of us are listening, we already know that this is impossible for an insult to apply to all black women in America or Canada or the UK or the Anglophone Caribbean or Western Europe. We know that's impossible. Just like all Nigerians don't hate African Americans. All Africans don't hate African Americans. You start learning, you realize most Africans don't hate African Americans. And most African Americans don't hate Africans. But each one of us thinks that all of the other one hates us. We don't have to say not all, and I'm not going to listen to a man that keeps doing that. So it's understood, and Minister Japp has actually said not all. But there is the German Shepherd that's the problem. You got to focus in on it. And then when he wants to talk about the problem, which is the German Shepherd, you all want to come along and say, well, let's stop with the name calling. And we're all about healing. Part of healing is going to be accountability. And we men have already taken more than our fair share of it. A few men that all the women like do these things that hurt women, and all men that women don't like have to deal with the consequences. Every time I've had to go through some difficulty to try to get a date with a woman before I became Muslim, every single time it was because somebody else did not have to do all these things, but they got the date and the draws. Now I understand the game. It wasn't because it was simply high value and I just had to go through things to get them because they're so high value. That's not why. It was because they had given up their value to somebody else. That's all it was. They felt that they could get more validation out of me than these other guys were going to get. So they figured, okay, I'm going to use black over here for these non-sexual things because I let this other dude over here use me sexually. So I'm going to try to balance it out at black's expense. That's what it was. Don't get it twisted. They got some dudes that are German Shepherds too. I call them goons, gynocrat goons and matriarchal mandingos. Some of them even worse, they're Rottweilers and German Shepherds. They're Rottweilers and Doberman Pinschers, not as smart as a German Shepherd. They take the orders from the German Shepherd, but they're not nearly as intelligent. That being said, the appellation is needed. Unfortunately, Minister Japp, I don't think his profanity is a necessity, but his accusations are needed because they're true. And we can see it going on. We can see them do this stuff. And the thing is this, as much as I don't believe in fornication, the fact is Minister Japp is being sexually selected by these women, and Instagram bears this out. So he is showing that the accusations that are usually leveled against men who observe the truth are just that, accusations. There's always this talk that, well, we guys who say this are just mad because of what we don't get from these women that other men do. And I would say, well, that's a valid reason still. That's a valid reason to be at least insulted and offended. That is a valid reason. But that's not all it is. If that was all it was, that would be sufficient, but that's not all it is. There's still the issue of, in the end of it all, there's still the issue of the women are acting like they're sweet and innocent and that they're fair, when in fact they're very biased and partial and unfair, and they're not sweet and innocent. I'm not going to go too much longer, but I could say that right down the street from me, a childhood friend of mine, a girl, lived this out. I won't go into too much detail, but there are three men in her life in this case. One is our childhood friend in common, had a crush on her from childhood. The other one is her ex-husband. And the other one is her current husband. The childhood friend of ours that had a crush on her from childhood unfortunately, never got a shot at her until she was married. I know this man and I know his character. He's not a Muslim. However, for him to mess with her, he really thought, he had to have thought that she was leaving or that she and her husband were in the process of divorcing. Of course, when it came out that she was messing around, he did divorce her. She's always put up this front like she's so sweet and so innocent, but I found as we got older that she was not. She's always been nice to me. She's never been mean to me, and so I've never had to be mean to her. But she's not sweet and innocent. Because she was a white passing black Creole girl, she was able to fool a lot of people, I admit. And this is going to be why I admit to something. I realize that a lot of times black men have been coloristic subconsciously and yet and still have not eliminated any particular complexion of women from mating and dating. It turns out that her mother did the exact same thing. And her mother did it for very materialistic reasons. Even abandoning her husband for a while to live with another man in his house. But she was convinced eventually to finally go back to her husband and children. And he took her back. Due to his financial success later, I'm pretty sure that she said, "I'm glad I did," but it has nothing to do with what's the right thing to do. That's the mother. So this childhood friend of mine learned from the best. After having a child from adultery with my childhood friend while she was married to her ex-husband, she still managed to find a successful doctor to marry her. Now, he had tried to talk to her when they were in college together, but she said, "You got too many hoes." I kid you not, that's what she said. This man began to court her in later years, met her parents, and said she will not have to work. And her mother said, "You better take this deal." The father didn't have a thing to say about it. What the father wanted to say was, "My daughter cheated on her last husband with a man that had had a crush on her for years and she never so much as blinked at or looked twice at except in friendship. Then she cheated with him on her ex-husband and they have a baby together. That's where the daughter came from that you know." It's bad out there, Mr. and Mrs. Pope. It's a war. And it's not a war that we men chose. It's a war that they chose. If you look at the deception between the genders, you will see that the deception by the women against the men is that of war. So, considering that it is a war, I think that Minister Japp calling certain deceptive sisters German Shepherds is very mild. Leave him alone. Or, better yet, come out in support of him. Because he's right. It's the German Shepherds that are wrong. You've had more to say about him than you've had to say about these German Shepherds. And Ms. Pope, you even decided to go back on a video you put out 3 years ago in which you were absolutely correct in favor of some message of healing and non-accountability and not pointing fingers and blame. No. Everything I've done wrong, I've had fingers pointed at me for it. And most of us men have had fingers pointed at us for things we did not even do wrong, but that some other men did. A rare and very small group of men that all the women want got to do these things that were wrong, and the rest of us got fingers pointed at us for it by these German Shepherds. You're barking up the wrong tree. Thanks for listening, though, and I hope this helps. Black heart, black mind, black out. Assalamu alaikum.